Modern country music has seen a recent revival in the traditional style with a renewed interest in chicken picking, tight-fitting jeans, and steel guitars. While plenty of legacies were made in the world of traditional country, there's a few artists who never got the recognition they deserve.
All of us have been living with rejection.
So today we're looking at 10 overlooked male artists in classic country, swing, and honky-tonk, including a few who are still performing today. Number 10. Junior Brown. While Junior Brown has had some mainstream success, he continues to reside somewhere on the outskirts of the genre. Appealing to alt country and rockabilly fans, Junior Brown is a good example of being too country for country music. He's also become a flag bearer for the heyday of good old-fashioned honky-tonk a la Ernest Tubb and Ray Price. He invented his own hybrid git steel guitar, and his unmistakable voice and style are truly unique. While many of today's throwback artists are a parody of earlier acts, Junior Brown is a real deal. Number 9. Dale Watson. Having a lot in common with Junior Brown, Dale Watson is one of the purveyors of classic country, but his long career goes to show the divide between corporate country music of Nashville and the fringe artists of the Lone Star State and beyond. Dale Watson has toured all over the globe playing honky-tonks and nightclubs, and he's done it in the gritty kind of fashion that is genuinely honky-tonk. He's had some great steel guitarists like Don Pollock and Ricky Davis. Lloyd Green even played on his 2010 album Carryin' On. Now, he'll never be a household name in contemporary music, but he is an artist who defined the Ameripolitan subgenre and helped transform Austin, Texas into the Music City rival that it is today. Number 8. Hank Wilson. Hank who? Leon Russell definitely left his mark in music history, but his country alter ego Hank Wilson also made some of the purest honky-tonk albums ever recorded in or outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Releasing a total of 4 country and bluegrass albums between 1973 and 2005, he collaborated with just about every legendary picker and session musician you can dream of. His albums were some of the best interpretations of real country music that hardly anyone seems to remember today. His duet of Heartbreak Hotel with Willie Nelson was nominated for a Grammy in 1979, but they lost to the Charlie Daniels Band.
I know just how much I have lost.
Number 7. Vern Gosdin. Known as The Voice, Vern Gosdin had an interesting career in country music, to say the least. He started out in Bakersfield, California, and enjoyed some early success with his brother Rex in the Gosdin Brothers, recording for Capitol Records. But by the 1970s, Gosdin had retired from the music industry and moved to Cartersville, Georgia. In 1981, Gosdin signed to AMI Records and had a top 10 hit, but was then embroiled in a conspiracy to assassinate his producer, Gary S. Paxton. By the early 80s, he was back to opening shows for George Jones and went on to land 3 #1 songs, including I'm Still Crazy and Set 'Em Up Joe, a lyrical tribute to Ernest Tubb. You won't hear much about him anymore, but some fans still believe he had the best voice in country music.
Oh, the next time the phone rings, I won't answer.
Number 6. Robbie Fulks. Robbie Fulks is an artist most contemporary country fans will have never heard of, but there's a reason that players like Red Volkart, Sammy Bush, and Lloyd Green appear on his albums. Robbie Fulks had the ability to write authentic classic country music when he wanted to, of course. He even worked as a staff writer for APA Music in Chicago. You'd never guess it from this album cover, but this is one of the most dyed-in-the-wool country albums I own. If this were the only album he ever made, I'd still be talking about it. That's how strong it is. It's a record that no top 10 list will reference, and Robbie himself described as the path-breaking, non-chart-breaking album Georgia Hard. Robbie Fulks wrote all of the songs here, and this might be one of the best country albums never released on vinyl.
The big time. For a while there I was hot.
Number 5. Freddie Powers. Taking a page out of the Tom T. Hall playbook, Freddie Powers knew how to get his songs heard in country music. But a recent trip through the archives reminds me just how great of a live show Freddie Powers also had going. Featured on the Austin City Limits and other network appearances, Freddie's trio, consisting of Clint Strong and Dean Reynolds, were shredding country swing at a pretty astonishing level in the 1980s. Nevertheless, Freddie's work is kind of remembered more as a footnote to the careers of Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson than it is for any of the albums he put out himself. Going back as far as his Showboat and Dixieland days in Las Vegas, Freddie Powers was an innovator in country jazz music. He finally did get some recognition before he passed in 2016, but it's really doubtful he will be remembered much at all going forward. Number 4, Homer and Jethro. Henry D. Homer Haynes and Kenneth C. Jethro Burns will always be remembered as the comedic duo that parodied country music throughout the 1950s and 60s. But like most of the music of that era, behind the scenes their musicianship was on another level. Casual fans might recall the Ballad of Camp Cucamonga and their rendition of Baby It's Cold Outside with June Carter. But Homer and Jethro were also virtuoso country jazz musicians who had studied the work of Django Reinhardt. Their live albums, Live at the Country Club and Live at Vanderbilt University, are masterful country swing performances, produced by Chet Atkins and featuring Boots Randolph and Jerry Reed in the band. After the untimely death of Homer Haynes in 1971, Jethro Burns went on to have a solo career recording for labels like Flying Fish and often performed with Chet Atkins and the other elder statesmen of Nashville's inner circle. Homer and Jethro did win a Grammy in 1959, and they were finally inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2001. But more than anything, they'll probably only be remembered as a parody act rather than innovators of the country swing style. Number 3, Dick Curless. One of the great voices in classic country, Dick Curless came from the faraway land of Fort Fairfield, Maine. He had a great gimmick, a great look, and an unforgettable voice. His albums were a tasteful mix of truck-driving country, folk ballads, and gospel music. Featuring monster players like Curly Chalker, he recorded for a variety of labels, and his career also featured a number of landmark moments. But today, traces of his legacy are hard to find. Like most of the artists in this list, Dick Curless did enjoy some regional and international success, but never crossed over into the mainstream for a variety of reasons. His career was presented as an exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2023, and he will continue to be remembered by hardcore fans and as the pride of Fort Fairfield, Maine. Number 2, Vernon Oxford. I was collecting country records for over a decade before I'd ever even heard the name Vernon Oxford. Sometimes associated with his interpretations of Hank Williams, don't think of Vernon Oxford as a Hank imitator. He recorded some gritty honky-tonk records throughout a long career spanning 5 decades. Songs like Redneck National Anthem and If I Had My Wife to Love Over were definitely too country for country in the 1970s. But listening to them back today is like discovering a lost treasure trove of beer-drinking, cheating songs you never knew existed. Lloyd Green, Weldon Myrick, and Hal Rugg all recorded in studio with Vernon Oxford, and despite many setbacks, he continued recording as an independent artist into the early 2000s. With album artwork like this, he has achieved a little bit of a cult following, and like Slim Whitman and Billy Joe Spears, he had a significant international fan base, specifically in the UK, where he's still considered to be a bit of an icon in classic country. Number 1, James Hand. Hailing from Waco, Texas, James Slim Hand was one of the most fascinating and heartbreaking characters in country music, and he did it all without working in Nashville, Tennessee. He recorded his first album at the ripe old age of 45 years old and shares a similarity to Vernon Oxford in being a kind of interpreter of Hank Williams' music. In the case of James Hand, he was also an eerie, almost ghost-like version of what the hillbilly Shakespeare might have resembled had he lived past 1952, which also happens to be the same year James Hand was born. His 2006 album, The Truth Will Set You Free, on Rounder Records is a work of genius. Produced by Ray Benson and Lloyd Maines, who also plays pedal steel, this album features Red Volkart and Will Indian on guitars, with Asleep at the Wheel's Jason Roberts on fiddle. The arrangements are as pure honky-tonk as you can get, and the 12 original songs sound inspired as much by Vernon Oxford as they do Hank Williams. This 2006 CD on Rounder is another fabulous country album that was sadly never released on vinyl. When Willie Nelson says you're the real deal, it's a pretty good sign you might be an overlooked artist in country music. James Hand passed away in 2020 at the age of 67. In 2021, Charlie Crockett released the album Charlie Crockett Sings James Hand. It's an awesome album, and it is available on vinyl. There are many more names that could have been featured here in this list, but those are 10 traditional sounding country artists I've always thought were a bit overlooked. A lot of people like Daryl Singletary. Is that a name that should have been mentioned here? Let me know who I missed, or maybe who I should feature in the next video. Take care, keep it country, and thanks for watching.